the same umbrella. They're still under nestor@avaya.com. Useful for when you want to create a profile for the user as maybe as an agent, and another profile for the user as a supervisor or something like that. So, you know, completely different profiles, but still under the same user profile, under the same umbrella. Okay, I'm gonna cancel that. I don't want to create a second communication profile. But that's what this slide is in page 22. Multiple communication profiles, completely unrelated from one another, but still under the same user profile umbrella. User provisioning rule. I mentioned this one yesterday when I was talking about the LDAP integration. So the user provisioning rule is nothing more than a template that you could use to save some time when you create your users. Let me show it to you, because actually we now have some information that could be filled out. So the user provisioning rule is here. If I click there, I actually had one created yesterday, sales. I'm gonna just delete it and create a new one. I'm gonna give it the same name, sales. But now I do have some information that I could populate here, like for example a zip domain, maybe a communication profile password. And if I go to communication profile, I could specify a session manager profile here, right? Primary session manager, maybe the home location is lab 1. And if I had a CM profile, it would show there. If I had a messaging profile, it would show there. So this is a template that I could create. I'm gonna commit. And then later when you create a user, maybe some of you notice that the very first thing that you could use is that user provisioning rule. So if I use the one that I just created, which is nothing more than a template, it's gonna say, hey, whatever you have right now configured for the user is gonna be lost, and the fields on the template are gonna be used instead. If I'm okay with that, you'll see that now for this user, some fields are already filled out. Yeah. So that's what the user provisioning rule is about. And the reason why I mentioned this yesterday is because I said, hey, if you create a user provisioning rule, not only with a session manager profile, but with a CM endpoint profile, with a messaging profile, and you associate that user provisioning rule to one of the fields in the Active Directory, then by using this is where you are able to populate everything in System Manager and have System Manager pushing CM extension number, you know, all of that stuff. You could do it by, let me go to the provisioning rule. You could go to that provisioning rule and say, hey, use the phone number of the user. It's going to be the last X digits for extension. So if the number coming from Active Directory is a number, is you know, the entire E.164 number, which is what, 11 digits, you could use this provisioning rule to say, hey, use as the extension of for the user, use the last 5 digits or the last 7 digits, and then have System Manager push that to CM, so that in CM you end up creating a station for the user with those last 5 or 7 digits. You see, so that's the true power of the integration with Active Directory, having System Manager create everything for you. That's the user provisioning rule. Let's see, what important fields are configured in the SIP communication profile? And location as well. You need to select the home location of the user, so A, B, and C. Okay, take a look at this. Add 2 SIP users. Here are the extensions that you're going to be using, any name you want, the communication profile password, and we're going to do something different to what we were doing in previous courses. And instead of configuring the phone manually, which was what we did before, This time you're going to configure DHCP so that you're going to provide those parameters via DHCP, which is what normally happens in a company. You don't go and configure phones manually. So what we're going to be doing, or you're going to be doing, is in the utility server, you're going to configure DHCP, and you're going to pass that information to the phones via DHCP. What information are you going to pass to the phones? The ones that you see here. The IP address of those phones could be an IP address within this range. So whatever your lab is, and between IP address 100 to 125. That's going to be the IP address range that you're going to configure in DHCP. This is the default gateway, this is the mask, and this is the HTTP server, which happens to be, again, the utility server. The utility server is going to be used as the DHCP server and as the HTTP server. What does an HTTP server provide to an IP phone? What? This 46XX settings file, that's one thing. What else? Firmware. Those two things. Firmware, in case you want to upgrade firmware or downgrade firmware, and the 46XX settings file. So, in relation to DHCP, both H23 phones or SIP phones work exactly the same. You know, when you boot up the phone sends a DHCP broadcast trying to look for a DHCP server, and the server then provides the phone with some parameters. Two options to configure the phones are manually configure the phone or DHCP. And here we have some information about DHCP. The phones use option 242. I mean, this family of phones use option 242. So you need to open up that option in your DHCP server, so that through that option you provide the phone with all of these networking parameters. Notice that it says here that the phone also gets another file that I didn't mention. It gets the upgrade.txt file. Well, 96XX upgrade. That's just a text file that it's actually the very first file that the phone checks. And if it finds that in that file there is a different version to the one that the phone currently has, then it downloads the new firmware associated to that new version. If it finds that in that text file, the version of that file is just exactly the same version that associated to the firmware that the phone has, then the phone simply doesn't do anything and just gets the 46XX settings file. Okay, we're gonna be doing something. Here's some information about DHCP. It's kind of basic, and I'm just gonna, if you wanna go through it, read it, I don't wanna spend time there. Something that we're gonna be doing, and I do wanna be specific with this. You're gonna have your SIP phone. And what I'm saying is that you're going to have a DHCP server that you will configure in a few minutes. And let's see, what parameters are going to provide the phone with via that DHCP server?
100 through 125.
IP address. What else? Mask. Right?
Yeah.
255.255.255.20.
The router. Gateway.
Gateway.
And
What?
option 242.
Option 242. Actually, we're going to configure all.
That, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what else? I'm missing one.
Router? HTTPS? No,
HTTP.
Right.
Which, by the way, you probably noticed that there is an HTTP and HTTPS. And we normally set up with the same IP address. This is because what you have normally in that HTTP server, normally what Avaya does is, in the HTTP server you have three things. The 96XX upgrade, right? That's a text file. The 46XX settings, another text file, and the firmware, which is normally, let's say, a bin file.
Yeah.
So these two files, the ones that are text file, are left in a HTTPS portion of that utility server, and the other one is left in the HTTP. The reason why this is left in the HTTPS is because you kind of want to send that information encrypted, because you have some, here especially in the settings file, you have some information that if a hacker gets, he gets to see some details about your system. So that's why we normally configure HTTP and HTTPS. It just happens that in the utility server, it's very easy to configure, and you kind of forget about this because it's both HTTPS and HTTP are kind of in the same folder in the utility server. Okay. Now we're going to provide the phone with these parameters, but the phone still needs more parameters. You saw that when I configure my 1x communicator, I needed the IP address of the SM100. I'm not providing this right now here. I needed a domain. I needed a port and a protocol, right? So you could pass on those parameters to the phone via DHCP as another string, you know, where you pass the IP address of the SM100, where you pass the domain. You could eventually do it. However, the way we're going to do it is we're going to pass only this via DHCP, and then in the 46XX settings file, that, remember, is part or is stored in the HTTP server. In that file, we're going to pass the SM100, the domain, and then the port and protocol. Okay? So that the phone finally is able to register with session map. So the first portion of the lab, which is what you're about to do, is configuring the DHCP server, and then you're gonna check if this is configured in the settings file, and if it's not configured, you will configure it. Okay, and I'll show you how. And let's see. Another exercise that you're gonna be doing is that you're gonna load new firmware into the utility server. Because right now, I think that none of the labs have zip firmware for the 9611 phones. So there is firmware in your laptop. Your laptop should have in the desktop, you should see a firmware file, 96 IPT zip release 7. Let me see, that one is 6.5. Let me see this one. That's 7. The one that I want you to use is the 7.0. That's the one that I want you to upload and activate. You'll see it's just part of the exercise. Okay? So let's start.
What is the password?
The password for the utility server is, well, the username is admin and the password is admin01. Do this exercise with your lab partner, because there's only one DHCP server for labs.
Let's figure it out.
Okay.
Which firmware did you say to use?
The one I want you to use is the 7.0.
Okay.
7.0. It's probably not uploaded. You'll have to upload it.
Yeah, the
Absolutely right. Let me give
All
you
right.
Navigate to the IP press.
Or actually, it might be
do the DHCP.
yeah. Use this one here.
Let's do it.
Oh, this is crazy.
Hold on.
I know
No,
the
I'm sorry. It's
DHCP really well, so
IP.
you wanna drive?
That's this one, right? DHCP manager.
All right. Crank up the browser to
Now,
40.26,
next.
so 192.168.40.22. You're in it, and you log in with what credential did you say to use?
So then the subnet next is going to be. Where is it? It says admin network.
All right. Utility.
Oh, okay, there it is. Right, so it's 192,
Utility admin.
168. Got
Right.
it.
And then
Well, it says it's not 0.
you log in to the admin, admin 01, and then
Oh,
the left menu
for the
on
HCP.
H.
Yep, yep, that's.
Yeah, okay.
Alright, we have to get another trick out of
And the
that.
subnet is 255.
I have a trick that helps with this kind of stuff.
Okay. IP address rate.
I'm in trouble.
It's going to be .100 to .120.
There it is. Check.
Okay.
Then the next one.
That's one thing
is
before you
the
start.
default
When you get to this point, the place where you're gonna assign in the DHCP string option 242 the string, the screenshot is not the best one. You don't need to do anything under option 176. First of all,
Yeah, that's pretty
you
good.
don't need to do anything because we don't. This is useful for when you have the 46XX family, right? That old IP family. So you don't need to do anything there. Nothing under option 250. The one that you need to configure. I'm in page 39. Stay here for me with me just for a second. The one that you need to configure is option 242. For zip phones, you don't need to configure this MCIP ADD. I mean, the string that they have right now for these phones is for an H223 phone, not for a zip phone. So for a zip phone, you don't need to specify these ones, neither the MC port. All you need to specify is what you see here. TLS SRVR, that's going to be the IP address of the HTTPS server, which happens to be, again, your utility server, comma, HTTPS RVR, which is the IP address of your HTTP server. Okay, so, I mean, all you need to enter is this information. That's it.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Next.
That's very good. So.
That's in page 39. Let me see page
DHCP
39.
manager from DHCP IP address pool.
We're one page away. That's the next page after you're done.
That's
Yeah.
here. So what I was saying is that
No, I
forget
think
about,
so
I mean, in the screenshot you get to see all of this information. You don't need to configure any of these. Any of these.
Right.
And here, actually, the screenshot is not the best because it's configured as if it was an H23 phone. So you don't need to configure this. All you need to configure starts here. TLS, blah, blah, blah.
And we had H68 followed us with the.
Then we will need to keep that in.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
I think we have this in our utility servers already.
But it's just a question of whether we want to manage the HTTP and then template wise, I don't really know it's on its own server, not through our utility service. But it is.
DHCP.
Yeah.
Hey, we can, I mean, if we can convince somebody how, right, we can convince somebody how if we wanted to say, it really doesn't need to manage the DHCP, we can manage the DHCP, we just have to make sure that
I
we
can't
have.
see that. Fours.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't
and then
think
we
we
got,
do, that's not what we do.
second button, add subnet.
You know what I'm saying?
And
But,
add
I mean, we
networks,
could
so
manage
we'll
it,
drop
but
in
maybe
the
they have
field,
to
it'll
be,
mention once we say
anyway, so
40,
conversion,
dot
that's not a
zero.
real domain.
252.
So,
Zero.
okay, now next, so really, we're doing just set phones.
So
So
255,
here you start really from the
255,
TLS server. So TLS SRVR,
And then you hit add.
Yeah, and then you
should
can just modify
allow
that,
the
yeah.
range.
make that
So
like
that
10,
is
and then the one
once
that's
it say 40.100. And then
Then we have the, a little bit of work there.
Commit changes and
What's that?
restart.
Yeah, oh, wait a second. That's for the 96, these are six.
We have to put the whole.
Yeah, this is all we need for SIM.
Yeah, but isn't it this one then?
Nope, 242.
What's the-
Right, then down at
I don't
default
even know
gateway,
what this
and
is.
the same with dot line.
I've never seen that video, I don't think we need it.
Master,
And
what's
down
option
at domain
250
name,
used for?
converge1.com.
I've never seen that before. Oh, it's
Yeah, that was
242.
that's an option in case you want to have in both in same place an entry for both H223 phones and zip phones.
Oh.
So you could use 242 for the H223 phones and 250 for the
You
zip
mean
phones.
like to create some sort of a distinction between the two phones?
So that the two phones could use the same utility server to download firmware and yeah. So you have the option to actually change.
192,
Let me show you.
40, 20.
This is a zip phone, right?
That's a set phone, right?
No
So-
spaces
But
in
we can use
here.
option 242 for the set phone.
Yeah, and that's the default option.
Right.
And I just want to show you that here,
Equals.
that's something that you could change.
Oh. In order to
They-
distinguish it from a 96
Yeah,
08
you could
non-SIP
use
issue.
some. Yeah, you could change that
Why would
option.
people want to do that? What would be the benefit to that?
It's so that you could provide different strings.
Oh, I see. Like different, yeah, because some 9608s may want to have something different
Something
set up
different.
than.
Yeah, maybe the H223 phones need something different. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Cool. So we got that. commit changes and restart DHCP. And then do.
Super critical
So
It should
how
say
do we
run.
click?
So
Click on that
there
button.
should be above that.
How do we-
in
how do
menus,
we
what
restart?
activate,
It's
deactivate
automatically
DHCP,
restarted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Page 12, the next one.
And then find our scope.
Click on activate, deactivate.
Running, good.
That's, yeah.
Okay.
So we want to,
So comes the information you need,
it says the service, okay, so activate it because it's deactivated
In
right
a
now.
weird way, I think.
Running, okay.
Alright, so. IP phone settings are.
Okay. And then,
Cell phones, all the utility servers have all kinds of products. So, on the left column, we need to find something ADVD settings.
So now we have
So
to-
it's under phone tools, or something phone
it
tools.
should be all,
46XX settings.
right. So let's do that next. Okay, so this,
Uh,
yeah, so
options.
go to where it says phone tools.
Active options.
Click on IP phone settings. and-
No, because the default is too.
Well, the one before that was, this basically says, oh,
HTTP 192,
Yeah.
say 4022,
So-
46XX settings.
right, and that's what we see here. And it says proceed with the selected values. Hold on.
46XX.
So yeah, click on that.
Good.
Uh-huh.
4/46XX.
Yeah, I had it run already, one that I had it with that.
I don't know. Oh, here we go. This is what we're looking for. SIP.
That's lowercase.
Here, check this out. You see when it says SIP controller list?
SIP controller?
You are old.
Yeah.
So for the settings file, if you're right there,
Yeah.
that's already configured. That should be already configured in the utility service.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh.
Well, cool,
Take a
we'll
look.
look at it.
Yeah. I'm looking at the one in lab 1, and I see that,
It just
notice,
says review. It just says review it.
yeah, it says just review it.
Yeah, we have to do any changes. It's just to be aware of it.
46XX file, we've seen in other formats.
But they.
But this is just nice.
the last one.
That's the last thing.
Individual.
I kind of like
Should we
this
be able to
editor,
log in?
you know?
Because
Because at least you have drop-down menus where you could select the options.
It's still brutal though.
So that's it. That's really just to say that, you know, you already have 46 settings. Well,
Yeah,
but if you
what,
wanted to
what you
review
could
it-
do quickly, what you could do is go there and display only active options to see if it's active.
That's why we have so many
Get rid of the
text
file
lines.
commands because there are a lot of them. So if you do like that and only get to see active options,
Get rid of the display comments. The one
you'll
above
see
it
that the
says-
only parameters right now in your settings file are the ones that you see here. SIP domain,
Yeah.
SIP control list. Notice that it has the IP address of your SM100
Okay.
and the port and the protocol.
There you go.
And simultaneous registration is set to 3, which is going to allow the phone eventually to register to primary session monitor, secondary session monitor, and the branch session monitor the same.
Okay.
So how did you get it to just show the
The active ones,
actives?
so when you click here, the default is display file commands. I don't want to display them. Instead, I want to display only active options.
Thanks.
If I go like that, I just get to see the active options.
Are we at a point where we need to
Three is
make
there.
the default?
Yeah, I think we're good.
At this point, if you just, the next thing is gonna be uploading new firmware to the. Did you ready?
Is that part of the lab? No.
I think it's the next lab.
It's next.
Keep going,
With the DHCP.
and you'll see the next one is upgrading the firmware.
Updating, yeah, here we go.
Yeah, we gotta give it some more stuff.
We are using
We
utility
need to find proxy server,
6.5
SIP proxy
firmware.
server.
to
Oh,
your
we want to use
desktop.
7.0.
Right, 7.0.
So we need to, like,
That would be on a, look under the machine.
It already is converted on that. So, no, it's in this somewhere. So at the top here,
Yeah.
so SIP domain is set.
Okay.
Good, the SIP proxy server. And make sure it's the
Well,
dot.
if we wanted to get an
9
updated firmware
yes.
office, we would go to the Avaya PLPS against the firmware. We got figured into it, I don't know about
I think being eligible
Yeah.
phones, we should update the firmware at some point.
Yeah.
because We've been at the same levels
since I started, at least. Alright. Okay, so navigate to the utility server.
And Andrew, you don't need to go with all of these parameters, not only for Andrew but for everybody. The most important parameters right now for the zip phone are going to be the zip domain and the zip controller list.
Which is
You don't need proxy server and all the rest of these things?
Well, the zip, that's a good question. The zip proxy server is actually an entry for 96X0 phones. But the 96X1 phones, that like the one you have right now is the 9611, right? 9611, 21, 31, 40. All of those use the zip controller list. If it's a 96, 10, 20, 30, 40, it uses the zip proxy server here.
So why aren't we seeing zip proxy server? Because it's not an active setting right now in
browse
ours.
to your file.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't care.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Okay, well, then
You would only care about that one if you're trying to provide that setting to a 96, 10, 20, 30, or 40.
And then
50.
Yeah.
and then click upload file. No, success. Okay.
And then we go back here.
Now click, yeah, now go back to manage firmware, phone firmware again. There it is, look at that. Now, next step. We go now and we select that one. And then we hit unpack, yeah.
In our case, in the lab, we don't have other active SIP.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So
Yeah.
just skip that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
And the only one you have is the one you just uploaded.
click and and that's this page, so I'll go to the next page. Click back on manage phone firmware.
I'm just wondering why is that phone always
Okay.
Keep going.
We did that.
Keep going.
So,
Notice
Oh.
that the file was activated successfully.
So the communication was still out.
Is there other phone?
Yep.
interesting. Okay, so we gotta go back and make sure we uncheck the other ones.
Actually, the only current firmware that you'll have is the one that you just
Go
uploaded.
back to
There's no
the phone
6.5.
Wait, what's this?
No, that at some point the lab is written.
For 6.5.
Not for 6.5, but they say that there is also a 6.5 firmware version that you.
So that's not true.
But it's not true. It's not there. So the only one you have is the one that you just uploaded. So that's the one that you need to activate, and
Okay.
that's it.
Okay, good.
Let's find this.
So we have to see if there's
on our
anything else
desktop
that's
for 7.0.
that's activated there.
No, he's saying.
Oh, it isn't?
he's
Okay.
saying there's
No,
Oh, then
no,
that's
nothing
fine.
else.
That's one
I'm
IPT.
sure the file was yep.
Oh, that's
So
fine.
it's one of the
And now we can
tax
activate.
books.
And
You found it?
So I'm gonna continue.
Yep. Okay, so
So,
select
we
that
gotta
one.
find settings. We wanna find
and
it.
click on activate.
So,
What?
Activating firmware package.
Successful.
so that's the file we want to
Good.
get. Let's
Next
do this
step.
one. So you
Now it should
downloaded
show as
access
active.
and who
Good.
cares? We did that.
Any issues?
There. So on the left
That's it.
side, manage
Awesome.
phone firmware.
Got it.
Can I reboot this phone now?
Yeah, go ahead and reboot that phone.
There's a bunch of things active.
You use that phone?
Okay.
Underneath, notice there's several active, but none of them will work for Avaya. Now we'll upload the news, so on the left, do an upload file and a miscellaneous, probably at the bottom of the deal. And
So do, restart phone.
Oh, yeah. You got it. You see.
Upload files, just, then find on your desktop that weird thing.
There she goes.
BT something, so, yep. everything.
Nice little colorful screens.
Yeah, the 9611s are
Little dude, little B, little
Yeah.
should come in packed.
But the only thing is, I think the display's a little smaller.
So now go
It
back
is.
to
Oh, who cares?
manage
The
phone
colors make sense.
firmware.
They have the zip logo with it.
And is it way to tell if the phone has zip firmware or H23 firmware?
Yeah.
Is by
Look at the bin, right? The options and settings.
yeah, and let's see. Well, actually, in this case, it doesn't have any parameters, but I know that it has zip firmware. If I go,
That was hosted.
Yeah, it's been looking for DHCP for a while there.
if I go here, well, I mean, easily I tell it's not a zip phone because it doesn't have a zip menu.
Oh, right.
right?
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't have a zip menu. Now, if I want to convert this phone, which
To a
is
zip phone.
to a zip
You go
phone,
to Signal.
all I need to do is
We
go to
did that
Signal,
already. Yeah.
change to zip,
Yeah.
save, and the phone is gonna reboot now
Automatically,
and
right.
try to find zip firmware in the utility
Yeah.
server. That's all you need to do.
We did that.
That's what we did at all the branches.
Yeah.
To convert the
Yeah.
9630.
Like the showrooms, for example, and stuff like that. All right, so this thing is loading up.
Well,
By,
Converge one did it.
by the way, Nestor, now that it's loading up the firmware, can I unplug it in the middle?
No.
No.
If you do it, you'll end up working the rest of the week with the cell phone. With one extremity cable.
I can then use this as an anchor for my boat or something.
That's right. That's what it'll become.
Yep. I always love that. That's funny because this one does not tell you, do not unplug this phone. It just,
I think it will.
Oh, it will.
maybe it
Yeah, I
will.
think
It's
it
just,
Now, there is a
We're not doing
chance,
that.
I'm not sure, but there is a good chance that these zip phones already have the 7.0 firmware.
I see.
so it may not really,
It may
go
not,
fast.
So
yeah,
it'll
it may
go-
or just get the settings file and
It'll
that's
come
it.
back a lot quicker.
Yeah, we'll see, because I'm not sure.
Because normally the process, at least from what I've seen, is about 8 minutes.
It's like 11 minutes.
It's 11 minutes, yeah.
So it's using the get SMGR. Get 46XX.
Yep. Let's see.
User management.
Is our HTTP server .22?
We already did it for one.
Uh,
So let's
I
add
think so.
that one. The
No, that was a utility server. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, .22, because that's where it's in the utility server.
other- Yeah, you can add it in. It's fine. So that we get it.
The utilities .22?
How
Yeah.
you doing, Jason? Good?
Yeah, so it already had the setup.
So basically, when we go back into the office, we could take a look and see, we now see
Yeah, I
the
wanna
utility
look
server.
at the
Nice.
And then we can see whether there's a DHCP there or not. Oh, here we go.
That's where we
So
have
let's
one.
see. I'm gonna log in as Sal. 1, 2, 0. Enter.
Well, we have to build 1201.
I built it already.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I think I did. We'll see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yep.
Enter.
Okay, so then in a drop down. That's it.
I'm gonna build my station.
That's it. Sal Chicha. Do we have Delta? Woohoo! I can help you with that, or we'll figure it out.
Oh, you really have the two profiles?
Well, I got one. We're doing it. We're gonna do the second one now.
4201.
One thing I had to change Salchicha around though because the app, to the right of the app, the domain was salchicha.com. So I had to make that converge1.com, and then you know, so like if you take Tom, that's
Make that first lookup button be SM4. And lower home location be live us here place.
so you right. So here's a fully qualified address. So is it T here?
So that's this
That's
here,
right.
and that,
Can
there,
build.
and way, so we'll make it, we'll change it.
Mhm.
Sorry.
And then bring it open up for a second. Let me just see. Yes, because there's you're gonna and that's left tab, and then scroll down a little bit more. And the home location, you're gonna pick a location. So take that.
So let's go back to 4201 and change that location
And
to
now you
this
can
here.
create continue. Oh,
Oh, I forgot my password.
oh yeah. And click on edit because it's the first time you have to put it in place.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what we were doing. Not that it matters. You can make whatever you want because it just has to match.
Twins?
Now log in so I can call you and hack you.
It's all gonna be my fault. She had declared that.
So that's supposed to be a hacking.
Yeah, this is, yeah, that's
Personal.
our local, sorry. Trying not to be silly in the future. Alright, so now I got this, now let's
You should hear it. You knew. Avaya.
Session manager.
Is it ready?
Two of your 96
Hey.
slabs.
Oh, big ear.
On the phone, view 27238.
Hey Tom, you need me to show you how to create a folder in Windows? It's right quick.
It's recording.
I gotta be careful.
Right.
Yeah,
Can
it's
you hear
true.
me?
Huh?
Check.
Check, check. Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Alrighty.
Yes, I can hear you.
On
You hear me?
your phone, type mute, so let's do at least mute 272.
Ya sé, por eso voy a tener que editarlo.
Ya toca editar.
Son 34 minutos. Act it out.
I didn't do
Who are you trying to call?
No problem.
Delicias de la colombiana?
No problem.
Yeah, what?
Delicious.
Let's see, can Sorry.
Take a break now for that one.
Hmm?
Break.
So why are these?
Say that again?
Break.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like-
yeah,
it
let's
is
have a
all
break.
outside jokes.
Either way, I had to go, so. Glad to break.
It takes a while. It takes a while for
There,
it.
do this, hit star, and then
I don't think he
272.
has
Oh,
it.
we sent out cross labs.
Oh, no?
Probably dial each other.
Oh.
That's right. We have to build the other
This
session managers.
CS. Oh, right.
Although he's 2202. Let's see.
Well, he is 22, so yeah.
Hit on
No, but you know
save.
what though? In the user management, I don't see anybody else here, but that's because he's in a different.
There is a different lab. So
Lab.
we can't
No.
cross-talk there.
Yeah.
Well, and then
We can't
down
cross
to
labs yet.
that thing,
Can't
just
cross labs.
save.